The second thing is, some of you know that one of the programs I took as a part of my training for this series is from the Wicking Center out of the University of Tasmania in Australia. I think I knew that there was a Tasmania, but I didn't know where it was. So anyway, it's south of Australia and part of Australia. But anyway, that Wicking Center has been a leader internationally in dementia studies, research, and also coping. And so they have a program, another one that will be starting. These are all free, they're all online, and they're very richly resourced. And so they do have one coming up. I think it's May 16th is when it opens up. It's 4 weeks long, and it's on basically on preventing dementia. So what can we do to have a healthy brain? And so that will be coming up then. And we will put this, I'll put this in the email out to you along with a link for that, for those of you who are interested in that. And finally, Marge has 2 books that she wants to mention briefly. Marge, why don't you come up and use the mic so everybody can hear you. 2 books that she has particularly found useful. So.
These are both books that were written in 2023, so it's kind of the latest information of what's going on out there. This one is called My Father's Brain, Life in the Shadow of Alzheimer's, and it's written by a doctor and his brother, who is a doctor, and it's their father, who is a doctor, that is going through dementia. And so it's just how they try to do, different things they try to cope with. And this one is called Travelers to an Unimaginable Lands, Stories of Dementia, the Caregiver, and the Human Brain. So this has individual stories that of the person who wrote it. Dasha Kippur is a counselor who works with people that have dementia. This one is a little bit more technical, but it really helps you to understand where we are on this. And it's kind of the most up-to-date thing. So if you're looking for something to read, not for fun particularly, but to be educated, either one of these are really good. So.
Thank you so much. And we are delighted to have Sunny here with us. Sunny here with us. Thank you, Sunny. My hearing aids are only partially helpful. Who is, she is the parish nurse at Risen Savior and also affiliated with the Green Valley Nurses Association. So, and then afterwards, if somebody wants to talk to you about what you do or whatever, perhaps should be available. We talk because she has a lot of interest in starting caregiving support groups around the community. So thank you so much for coming. And good to have you with us again from Prestige. I'm sorry.
Julie.
Yeah, Julie from Prestige. Thank you so much for coming. So with that, I'm happy to introduce Nicole. Nicole Thomas is with us today from Pima Council on Aging, and she is the Community Education Specialist. So she's exactly the right person to be here with us today. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you guys for having me out. Today's presentation is just kind of a smorgasbord, a little bit of everything, and then we have topics that we can go into more if you guys are interested, set up future presentations. There were a lot of requests. I don't know who all was here when my boss was here, Harbudgeon, and she kind of got some requests on some information that people were asking for. So I have a little bit of everything today, and then we can schedule future ones to go more in depth if you guys want. Some of the things I'm going to go through today, just a real brief overview of what is dementia, some prevalence and statistics, early warning signs, how does dementia affect the brain, some communication tips for communicating for people who are living with dementia, and causes, risk factors, and prevention. So all of this, again, is just kind of a pretty brief overview, and then we can go more into in future presentations. So what is dementia? In this picture, you can see on the left-hand side is a healthy brain. Right-hand side is advanced Alzheimer's. Dementia itself is not a single disease. It's kind of an umbrella term for anything that is causing chronic, persistent, and progressive disorders of the brain, usually diseases of the brain. Sometimes it's from injury. And it causes a decline in memory and cognitive functioning from previous levels that are severe enough to impact daily living. I kind of like this. Again, the dementia is an umbrella term. It's not one disease. Alzheimer's, you'll hear a lot about. That is the most common type of dementia. So Alzheimer's is one type of dementia. It's the one that you'll hear about the most because it's the most common. There's about 60 to 80% of dementia cases are Alzheimer's. That's why you'll hear that one the most. Sometimes it's used kind of interchangeably, but Alzheimer's is just one type of dementia. The other most common types are Lewy body dementia, vascular dementia, and frontotemporal dementia. Between those four, that's about 90 to 95% of dementia cases. There are actually hundreds of types of dementia, but the others are a lot more rare. They're not as common as those four types. Some prevalence and statistics. I have a few more written down, so I'm going to look at my screen over here. Try not to get too much in the way. Worldwide, about 50 million people are living with Alzheimer's alone. And again, that's just that one most common type of dementia. 50 million people in the world. In the US specifically, there's about 6.5 million people living with Alzheimer's specifically. That is projected to reach 14 million by 2050, so it is a very rapidly growing issue. About 11% of people 65 and older have some form of dementia. The number one risk factor is age. That percentage goes up with age. Arizona, unfortunately, has the title of the fastest growing state in the nation for the cases of Alzheimer's. Some of that is explained just from aging demographics, people moving here from other states, retirement states, but not all of it is. They're not exactly sure why that is because Florida has similar demographics and isn't anywhere near as close to the top as we are, so they're not positive why that is. Some Arizona-specific demographics here. One of the things that they think might be contributing to that is because there are genes that are more common in the Native American populations that are linked to Alzheimer's. And we have a lot higher Native American population than some of the other retirement states, but that doesn't explain most of it. That's just part of it. Nationwide, Alzheimer's is the 6th leading cause of death. In Arizona, it's the 4th leading cause of death. It kills more people than breast cancer and prostate cancer combined, but we just don't hear about it. People are not talking about it. For something that's the 4th leading cause of death in Arizona, you would think you would be hearing about it all the time, and we just don't. The number of people in Pima County specifically is living with some type of dementia is projected to be almost 29,000 just in the next 2 years. So almost 30,000 people living with dementia just within Pima County. It also doesn't just affect, obviously, the people who are living with dementia, but also caregivers. There are about 262,000 caregivers for someone with dementia in Arizona. Over half of those people also have chronic health conditions of their own, so they're trying to not only manage their own health conditions, but also providing care on top of that. So obviously, not only affects the people living with dementia, caregivers, everyone in the community is in some way affected by this. Some specific demographics, it does not hit everyone equally. Racially, African Americans are twice as likely as white Americans to develop it. Asian and Pacific Americans are the least likely to develop it. Women have twice the lifetime risk factor of men. Part of that is because with age being the #1 factor, and women tend to live longer. Again, that explains part of it, but it doesn't explain the whole difference, and they're not positive why that is. Not very helpful to bring a clicker and then leave it on the computer. All right, so we're gonna look at some signs of what's normal, what are normal signs of aging, what might be more concerning. We know that there are kind of physical signs that go along with aging that are normal. You know, maybe we're more gray hair, might need stronger prescriptions for our glasses, a little bit stiffer when we get out of bed in the morning as we age, all things that are pretty normal with aging. There are things that are also normal with cognitive aging, so we'll kind of look at what is expected, what might be more concerning. The first sign, and usually one of the first things we think about with Alzheimer's, is memory loss. Memory loss that disrupts daily life. So this could be forgetting important dates, asking for the same information over and over and over again. Recently learned information is going to be what's lost first. So they'll have longer term memories for a lot longer, short term memories, things that they just did, things that people just told them will be what they forget first. What is typical with normal aging are kind of those, those senior moments. Every now and then, you forget something, forgetting names, appointments, taking a little bit longer to remember someone's name, having to be reminded of someone's name. One of the differences is once there's kind of a cue, are you able to remember, oh, that's right, I saw it on the calendar, I forgot I have an appointment this afternoon. Or that's right, Mary, that's who that is. Are you able to kind of trigger that memory once there's a cue, or is it still new information to you? That's kind of would be the difference between what's normal and what's not. If it's been told to you a couple times and it's still new information, that would be more concerning. Challenges in planning or problem solving. So this could be things like a recipe that you've been making for decades. All of a sudden now you're forgetting steps, forgetting ingredients, things are a little bit more challenging. What you'll see this with a lot, several of these things, is money management, forgetting to pay a bill, forgetting that you paid the bill, so the same bill is getting paid 2-3 times. What's normal, and this is normal aging, this is any age, we're human, we're going to make mistakes sometimes. It's kind of what humans are known for, right? Making mistakes, forgetting to pay a bill every now and then is normal. Not every single month, and it's not increasingly happening. That would be more concerning. Difficulty completing familiar tasks at home, at work, leisure. So this could be, again, things like recipes, could be things at work that you do all the time, budgets. It could be games that you play. Every Wednesday I go and I play bridge. Now I'm going and I don't remember how to play the game, or I don't remember how to keep the score. Things like that would be a little bit more concerning. What's normal is usually a relief to a lot of people. That kind of learning curve with technology, that is perfectly normal, especially as quickly as technology is changing. If you get a new phone or you get a new appliance, a new TV, needing help setting it up or having someone explain it to you a couple times is perfectly normal. There's nothing concerning about that. What would be more concerning is Again, are they having to reteach you the information every single time, and is it new every time? Are you having to have someone tell you how to change the channel every single time that you want to change the channel? Confusion with time or place. Sometimes people with Alzheimer's will not know how they got somewhere, where they are. This can be small periods of time. Maybe I think it's the morning and it's actually the afternoon. I've lost a few hours. Could be a couple days. I think it's Thursday and it's it's Saturday. This can sometimes be decades. I think that it is 1975 right now and it's 2023. So this can be a pretty wide range of how much time have they lost. What's normal is that I'm so excited today, it's finally Friday, and it's payday, and I'm gonna, relax this weekend, and then, no, it's Thursday. It's Thursday afternoon. I still have a whole nother day. Getting kind of mixed up with those days of the week, perfectly normal. Kind of goes back to the first thing. If I look at a calendar, if someone reminds me, am I able to be cued to remember the correct information? Trouble understanding visual images and spatial relationships. So for some people with Alzheimer's, changes in vision can actually be a symptom of that. This can be problems judging distance, color, contrast, losing peripheral vision. This can be especially problematic if they're driving. Obviously, if you're having trouble determining spatial relationships, distances, things. But this can also be just general kind of walking around. They might walk up to here and then stop because they don't know, do I need to step up? Is this a hole I'm gonna fall into? Is this a rug that I can just continue walking on? They're not able to necessarily judge the color contrast, those distances, the depth perception. What's normal is physical vision changes. So needing those stronger prescriptions, macular degeneration, cataracts, things that are physically wrong with the eyes. With these, there's nothing wrong with their actual eyes. It's because of brain changes that are causing those issues. New problems with words in speaking or writing. Usually speaking will be the first place that you'll kind of notice some of these issues with word. Could be finding the right word, could be sometimes making up words. My hand clock says it's 4. They can't think of the word, so they'll just kind of make something up in its place. Instead of saying watch, they'll just kind of make something else up. They might use the completely wrong word. This pool has the picture on it, just kind of replacing random words into other words that don't really make any sense, but they may not catch that was not the correct word. Saying the same things over and over again, asking for the same information. Sometimes they're not able to join in a conversation. Sometimes they'll be in the middle of a conversation and just kind of stop. And they're not sure how to continue that conversation. They can't really keep up with that conversation. What is normal is kind of those tip of the tongue moments where I know what I want to say, or what is the word for that thing, and it's right there and you can't quite think of it. Half the time, a couple hours after the conversation has ended, you're like, the watch, that's what it was, you'll kind of think of it later. Those kind of tip of the tongue moments every now and then are perfectly normal. Misplacing things and losing the ability to retrace steps. So what's kind of the difference between what's normal and not, because we all misplace things. The TV control, our glasses, the keys, you know, we're always misplacing things. That part is perfectly normal. What we are normally able to do is kind of either look in the usual suspect places. Usually if I can't find my TV control, it's either fallen between the cushions, or I walked into the kitchen with it and I left it on the counter. So I'm gonna check those couple places first. If it's not there, I'll go somewhere else. If I usually hang up my keys as soon as I come in the door on the key hook, but today I was like, I really gotta rush to the bathroom. So as soon as I got in, I ran to the bathroom, threw them on the counter, and I go to leave tomorrow and they're not on the hook. It's like, okay, I can kind of go through and say, all right, I know I had them because I unlocked the front door, so I had to have had them to come in. And then I went to the bathroom. Here they are on the bathroom counter. I'm kind of able to go through some of those steps and retrace them to find the things that are misplaced. People with Alzheimer's are not able to do that. They're not able to go through those retracing the steps. They're not able to go to the usual places, and a lot of times they're not going to be in the usual places. They might find the keys in the freezer or in the trash can because they got thrown away. Decreased or poor judgment. Sometimes this is smaller things, not necessarily paying attention to grooming as much, not bathing as much, wearing the same clothes over and over. Again, we're people, we make bad decisions sometimes. That is normal. The poor judgment as far as Alzheimer's will be clearly poor judgment, not like, I probably should have done this instead of that. It's like, oh, a random telemarketer called me and I just gave them my entire life savings. Or it's, it's the monsoon outside and it's pouring rain and there's lightning. I think I'm gonna go garden. Things that clearly, most people would immediately be able to identify that this is a bad decision. It's not like, should I not? Clearly bad decision. Withdrawal from work or social activity, a lot of times people are aware that there's something going on, or they're aware I'm not able to keep up with conversations when I'm trying to have them, or I don't remember how to play bridge anymore, so I'm going to stop going to my usual bridge games. I'm going to stop going out to lunch because I keep getting lost and not able to keep up with the conversation. So they'll start withdrawing a lot. What is normal is sometimes we're supposed to go to lunch and we just don't feel like it, We're supposed to go at 12 and it's 11 and it's like, I don't want to get dressed, I don't want to go. We just don't feel like doing things sometimes, and that is perfectly normal. Not a complete withdrawal from social activity. Changes in mood and personality, and this could be becoming more depressed, fearful, anxious, very agitated, easily agitated. What is normal? We tend to develop things, we like things done the way that we like them done. And we have our routine, we want them done this way, we want things, you can do the dishes for me, but I like the cups up here, and if you put the cups down here, that's gonna irritate me, or I like to do it in this order, and you did it in this order, and now I'm a little cranky. That's pretty normal. That's normal. Not complete changes in your personality. Some of the benefits of early detection. As Pastor was saying, David was here last week, and he is one of 2 options counselors that we have. And what that basically is kind of a short-term case manager specifically for dementia. One of the things that we're trying to do is really push early detection, diagnosis. The earlier that we can catch it, the more that we can do. Several reasons. We do offer free screenings as well. The options counselors do that also. One of the reasons being increased opportunity to rule out other causes of cognitive impairment. Obviously, most of these symptoms, if you're withdrawing from social activity, you're having depth perception problems, or even some of the cognitive symptoms. It's not like, oh, you must have dementia. That's the only explanation it could be. There's a lot of stuff that could be causing that. So whether or not it's dementia, the earlier that we can catch it, the earlier we can figure out what it is. A lot of these, even cognitive symptoms, can be caused by vitamin deficiencies, UTIs, things that are very easily and quickly treatable, and the symptoms will resolve. So if that's what it is, we want to get it done and out of the way. If it is dementia, we still want to get it detected, diagnosed earlier, for several reasons, to improve the quality of life. And I have some further thing. There was a town hall meeting that they did for people with early stage dementia, and asked them, was it a good thing getting the early diagnosis, and why? Most of them said yes for a few reasons. First of all, having time to kind of deal with the diagnosis, live life to the fullest now. I know what's coming, let me do what I want to do now. Being able to plan ahead. In those early stages, you're still perfectly able to be involved in advanced planning. I am going to put in writing what I want done. I'm going to give financial power of attorney to someone, so I'm not handing over my entire life savings to random telemarketers. A lot of things that you can do and be involved in that stage, and also that way down the road, it's not other people, feeling guilty. Is this the right thing? What should I do? People bickering, siblings, oh, I think we should do this with mom. No, I think we should do this. Causing problems. You can say, this is what I want done. Eliminating some of the conflict with other people. When you're living with someone, whether it's a caregiver or just family members, going to church, you're interacting with other people. If someone has sudden behavior changes, it can obviously be problematic, but if it's behavior changes that they're maybe more aggressive, or they're saying things that they usually wouldn't, kind of impulse control issues, saying things that would usually be considered inappropriate to say, and we don't know that it's because of dementia, that can cause a lot of problems with people and conflict, and they're really being a jerk, they're being rude, they're saying all these things, that can be an issue. And if we know that it's dementia that is causing this and not the person acting like this, there's a reason we can not only know what is causing it, it's not just this person behaving in a certain way, but also learn kind of what to expect, what are some strategies for dealing with it. If this does happen, what are some other things that I can maybe say to eliminate some of this conflict? Helping them avoid exploitation and scams, like with that, telemarketer example. If you're able to the more safeguards that you can put in place with other people, the less likely it is that people can take advantage of you when you're having problems with planning, problem solving, judgment, things like that. The last one, giving them time to begin treatment and enroll in clinical trials sooner. The current treatments that we have for Alzheimer's, there's one very new one that's promising that actually addresses the Alzheimer's. It is not accessible for the vast majority of people at this time. The treatments that we currently have are not addressing Alzheimer's itself. It's addressing the cognitive symptoms that person is having. What they're designed to do are kind of slow down the progression of those specific symptoms and keep them from getting to kind of later stages as long as possible. If we don't figure out this diagnosis until you're already at that point, the medication isn't going to do any good, because what the medication is designed to do is slow you down from getting to that point. So the earlier that you can get on that medication, the more that it's going to be able to actually slow down that process. Oh, sorry, I'll flip back just for the last one. A lot of the people that are living everywhere but In Pima County as well, I believe it's like 7,000 people with dementia are living alone. So we want to diagnose it as early as possible so that we can get those safeguards in place. In the early stages, they're still able to live alone with some help. They'll need supervision, they'll need care eventually. So having those things in order for when they do need them and they're not, ending up in a dangerous situation. All right, so this is that picture again of the healthy brain and advanced Alzheimer's. There are a lot of different areas of the brain. They're responsible for different things. So depending on which areas of the brain are being affected are going to be what symptoms are they having, how severe are the symptoms. No two people have exactly the same progression, the same symptoms. The saying goes that once you know one person with dementia, you know one person with dementia. There's no pattern. This is exactly what you can expect. This is exactly what symptoms they'll have. This is when they'll have them. It's all very dependent on the individual, what areas of the brain are being affected, how severely are they being affected. This graphic, I just like to kind of visualize. So if you'll think of the bookcase on the left as a healthy brain, each of the books that we have in our brain would be a skill, something we know how to do, a memory of something that we have done. The ones up on the top shelf would be facts, things that we've learned, dates, language, mathematics, impulse control would be up on the top. Short-term memories would also be up on there. What's down on those lower shelves of our brain are our emotions and longer-term memories. If you kind of think of dementia as walking in and grabbing that bookcase and just shaking it, what's going to fall out first are those ones on the top, those short-term memories, impulse control, language, math. What's going to stay a lot longer are the emotions and the long-term memories down on the bottom. So the example that I usually use is if we have a 75-year-old woman living by herself, her daughter comes to visit her, they go out, they go to a movie, they go have lunch, they get ice cream, have a really nice day. The daughter goes home later. The mom may or may not remember that the daughter visited at all. She might not remember what movie did we go see, what kind of ice cream did we have, what did we eat for lunch. Those kind of factual things will be the first things to go. What will last a lot longer is I'm happy, those emotions of love, I had a good day, I got to see my daughter that I love, I'm in a good mood. Those things will last a lot longer than the memory of why do I feel this way. And on the flip side, if the daughter comes over and they're just bickering all day, oh my God, Mom, you ask me the same question every time I see you, and and they're just going at it all day. The daughter leaves, same thing. The mom might not remember she was there, won't remember what they were arguing about. What will remain with her are I'm frustrated, I'm irritated, the anger, that is what will remain with her longer. Some of these communication tips, again, it's completely going to be dependent on the person living with dementia. They're not all going to have the same issues with communication. Their ability to articulate things will be affected, as well as their ability to understand what we are saying to them. The first thing, treat the person with dignity and respect. And you think, hopefully we're doing that anyway, right? You think that kind of goes without saying. The reason that I do include that is because the progression of dementia you can kind of think of as the opposite of childhood development. As a baby is born, there are milestones that they're reaching. They're able to say and do more things. Dementia is kind of the reverse of that. They're needing more and more care. they're able to do fewer things. What will happen sometimes is people will start speaking to them as if they are a child. And just kind of a reminder not to do that. They're not a child, they're an adult with a lifetime of experiences. Even in the latest stages when they're unable to understand maybe even the words that are coming out, what is very much intact still is their ability to understand nonverbal communication. What tone are you saying things in? Are you being friendly to me? Are you being condescending? Are you yelling at me? Are you being pleasant? Your body language, all of that they're still able to pick up on, even if they can't understand the actual words. So just remembering they're an adult and speak to them as such. Be patient and supportive. If they're trying to get something out and it's taking a while, just encourage them to keep trying. Slow the pace slightly. Allow time for the person to process and respond. This is one that I really want to hit. We're able to kind of go back and forth. I can say something to you, you understand it. If I ask you a question, what's your favorite ice cream? What's your favorite ice cream? Coffee flavored ice cream. Okay. I didn't ask something, she can respond right away. She understood what I asked, she can respond. People with dementia are not able to do that. It can take up to 20 seconds for them to process what you have said and start formulating a response. They're not able to do that just immediately. Keeping that in mind, a few common things that can happen. Sometimes if I ask a question and you don't immediately answer, I'm going to ask again, or I'm going to keep talking because maybe you didn't understand what I said. Let me keep talking. And they're still just kind of trying to process that. So allowing some quiet time for them to process that. It doesn't mean that they didn't necessarily understand what you said, so give them a little bit to respond. Then if you need to, you can repeat it again. What can also happen is if there are a lot of people, topics can change more quickly than we kind of realize. If I'm going around and I'm asking everyone, what's your favorite dessert? Okay, we're gonna have everyone answer what's your favorite dessert, and I get to the third person and they say, oh, Ben & Jerry's. Oh, I'm from Vermont. I used to go, that's where Ben & Jerry's main, thing is, and I used to go there for vacation on the summers. And, oh yeah, my family used to go there for vacation. Oh yeah, well, I always went to Florida for vacation. And then, by the time we're to the third or fourth person, they're still thinking about what is my favorite dessert. And we're now talking about summer childhood vacations or, who knows what over here, and they're not able to join that conversation now. So just being aware, if there are multiple people especially, of how quickly conversations can change and giving them the time to participate in whatever the original conversation was. What can also happen is sometimes we just get uncomfortable with silence, and we decide to fill it by just continuing to talk. We've said what we want to say, or we've asked what we want to ask, but nothing was said, so now I'm going to keep talking, and then this, and then, they're still trying to process what you said, and you're over here now, starting to say who knows what again, and they're not able to process that, so just stay quiet for a little bit, let them process that. Speak clearly, simplify sentences and choices. If you can give yes or no questions, or a couple multiple choice versus open-ended questions, that can be helpful. So we're going out to eat, do you want coffee ice cream or do you want Rocky Road ice cream, versus what kind of ice cream do you want? Do you want to go to Red Lobster to eat, or do you want to go to Olive Garden, versus what do you want to eat for lunch? A couple limited options can be a lot more helpful than just kind of broad questions. There are times, this may come up later, but for caregivers specifically, there are times that you might not want to give multiple choice questions, like, do you want to take a shower? Because you've just given them a yes or no answer, and if you've already decided that you're going to be taking a shower, don't ask them yes or no questions, that if they say no, you're going to try and get them to do it anyway. So sometimes, as a caregiver, you might want to avoid the yes or no. If you've already decided that it's a yes, But in other cases, yes or no and multiple choice are a good way to go. Avoid criticizing, correcting, or arguing. This is one of probably the most important one, and also one of the most difficult ones sometimes. You are not going to win an argument with dementia. Dementia is not a person, it's not a logical person that you are going to convince of something. You could be, correct beyond a reasonable doubt. You can have stacks of information proving that you are correct. You are not going to win that argument. Their reality is not our reality, and you are not going to reorient them to our reality if they are not currently in it. And the only thing it's going to do is frustrate both of you. Might just make them think either you don't care what they're saying because they're telling you something and you're trying to tell, no it's not, kind of dismissing what they're saying, or it might make them think, you don't know what you're talking about, because I definitely see Elvis standing right there, and if you are telling me that he's not, you clearly don't know what you're talking about because I'm looking at him right now. So now you don't know what you're talking about, and I'm not going to believe anything that you say. So arguing, trying to convince them, trying to reorient them to our reality is not going to be fruitful. The best thing that you can usually do, unless it's a matter of safety, the best thing that you can do is just kind of joining them in that reality as much as possible, kind of going with it. What's Elvis wearing? Oh, it's 1970 and you're getting ready for your first day of school tomorrow. What are you guys going to learn in school? Kind of going with whatever, wherever they are at that moment as much as possible, kind of going along with that. Things that you can do personally just to kind of make the community more dementia friendly. Getting screened and encouraging other people to get screened. So if you're interested in getting screening, David will be here on a monthly basis, I believe, at least. He can do those screenings if you're interested. We can do them at PCOA. They can be done over the phone as well. Part of that, though, is just normalizing it. Normalizing those screenings. A lot of people also don't know if you're doing Medicare annual wellness checks, you are supposed to be getting a cognitive test every year anyway. Less than half of people are. Yeah, you are supposed to be getting that anyway. You are entitled to be getting it. You can absolutely request that if you are getting your annual wellness screening. Your doctor can do that for you as well. But we also offer the free screenings at PCOA. Part of that, though, again, is just to normalize it. Just like you would go, we want to stay on top of our physical health. We want to get physicals, checkups every so often. We also want to do the same thing with our cognitive health and just make it kind of a normal point of healthcare. That also can help introduce the topic if there is someone that you are concerned about and you think they may need to be screened and you're seeing some symptoms. A lot of the times it's going to be a lot easier received. If it's not, I think there's something wrong with you, you need to go do this, versus everyone's doing, hey, I just went and got my screening, have you ever thought about, have you ever done the here's the information on how to do this? Everybody's doing it, kind of just a normal thing, good way to introduce that topic. Using the communication tips if you encounter people in the church, in the community, or if you're caregiving for someone who's living with dementia. Getting in touch and staying in touch. Dementia can be very, very isolating, not just for the people who are living with dementia, but also for caregivers. It becomes increasingly difficult to, where can I go? There are a lot more decisions to be made. It's not, okay, we're just gonna take a quick run to the store, It might be a 4-hour ordeal to go to the store now if, we have to get this ready and we have all these extra things. They're also less and less able to socialize. So the more able that other people are to be intentional about reaching out to people living with dementia and caregivers, taking it upon yourself and not doing the whole, well, they didn't call me, so I'm not going to call that, you know. No, you be intentional. They have a lot on their plate, you know. Reach out to them, make it a point to stay in touch with them. Spreading awareness, whether it's something, you know, a statistic that kind of stuck with you, or a communication tip, something that you can tell other people or other churches, oh, we should, you know, maybe we should do a Dementia Friends training, whatever it is. If you're on social media, I don't know, and you see a fundraiser, oh, the Congress is trying to get more money for Alzheimer's research, let me share this link. Whatever it is, just kind of getting people talking about it, because again, this is a huge issue that people aren't talking about. Stay connected if you are interested. You guys have a pretty good system. You guys are way ahead of a lot of people. But if you are interested in information, there's newsletters, podcasts, websites, online events, all kinds of stuff, the classes that you can go to stay up to date on that. Getting involved, that could be going to support groups, going to book clubs. It could be donating, volunteering. Research studies are one thing I would mention with that, getting involved, and a lot of people immediately kind of shut down when they hear research studies, because they're like, I'm not taking some weird drugs and I don't know what they're going to do to me. You know, a lot of the research studies do not involve medications. They just maybe need a control group, or they will study people over a certain amount of time. You know, they might just take a blood sample once a year for a certain amount of time. That can be very helpful in some of the developments though, so consider doing the research studies if you're interested. Causes and risk factors, I'll kind of speed through the next two because this is its whole own topic. The exact causes, with everything that we know, the exact causes of Alzheimer's are not exactly known. We're still basically working with a working theory at this point. What we believe causes it is a buildup of proteins. There are proteins that all of us have in our body going through our brain. They start clumping up in people with Alzheimer's. They start kind of forming plaques in the brain. That is what we can recognize. This is Alzheimer's, if they have those plaques build up in there. Genetic mutation, there's a genetic factor in it. About 40% of causes are going to be something genetic. You know, if you had multiple people in your family that already had Alzheimer's, you would be more likely to develop it. There's only one genetic mutation that if you have this, you are going to get it, and it's, I think, like 2 families in the world that have it. It's extremely rare, not something that most people need to worry about. The actual risk factors, again, some of those are kind of those in that 40% that there's not really a whole lot you can do about it. Aging, we can't stop that, right? Family genetic history, we can't change that. Race and gender, not something we can change. Cardiovascular disease, so now we're going into that 60% that we can control. We can have some influence over these risk factors. If it's good for your heart, it's good for your brain. So the same things that you hear kind of all the time as general health information, watch your cholesterol, watch your blood pressure, treat diabetes, avoid diabetes, watch your diet, get some exercise, don't smoke. All of those kind of basic advice goes directly also for dementia risk factors. Stroke increases the risk of that. Some of the things, head trauma and traumatic brain injury, obviously if that is something controllable, hopefully you are already trying to avoid head injury. Some of the things that we kind of don't necessarily think about. Lack of social engagement is a huge one that we don't really think about. It has been shown to make a very, very dramatic difference if someone is engaging with other people, if they're having some type of social interaction versus the people who are not, the people who are not are significantly more likely to develop dementia. It is a huge risk factor. Lack of education. The formal education, there does seem to be a correlation. The more formal education that someone has, the lower their risk is. In the next slide, I'm going to go a little bit more into that in the cognitive activity. But as far as prevention, I put it into 4 different categories here. Physical health, again, most of this is stuff that you hear all the time. Having some type of physical activity, and this does not need to be pumping iron 2 hours a day, 7 days a week. Some type of physical activity. One of the best things you can do is walking. If you can't go for long distances, maybe try to go a little bit faster. If you keep track of your steps, maybe I'm averaging 4,000 steps now, I'm going to shoot for 6,000 steps a day. If I can go a little bit faster, you can do fewer steps and faster, and it does about the same as more steps and slower. Some combination. Doing chores actually makes a big difference too. You don't really think about it as activity, but you're doing stuff around the house, and it does drop that risk factor because you're being active. Keeping an eye on blood pressure, sugar, weight, cholesterol, not smoking, not drinking excessively, getting enough sleep. That is one I also really want to hit. That protein that we all have, when we are sleeping, that is when our body is able to kind of wash that out, kind of clear out excessive things that are in our bodies. If you're not getting enough sleep, that gives your body less time to kind of wash that out and more time for those plaques to form. Diet and nutrition, this is pretty much the usual. Eat vegetables, fruits and vegetables, healthy things, nuts, beans, whole grains. Don't eat a lot of fatty foods, a lot of salt, sugar, fried foods. Consult doctors about vitamins and supplements. I put that one on there because there are some vitamins. Vitamin D has been shown to have a very direct correlation with that. There are a lot of supplements on the market that they're trying to sell you, specifically saying this is going to lower your chance of this, that has no research supporting it, besides what they did themselves in their own lab where they're trying to sell it. So there's a lot of these things have no research behind them. So talk to a doctor before you spend a bunch of money buying some of these things. Cognitive activity, reading books, articles, completing puzzles, playing games. The key here is that it has to be somewhat challenging. If you have been doing the crossword puzzle for 50 years and you can get through it in 5 minutes because you already know all these answers, that is not going to help you with preventing dementia because you're not really exercising your brain at that point. So basically the cognitive activity, what you're trying to do is a little bit of activity, exercise for your brain. Something that's at least a little bit challenging. If you're reading Dr. Seuss books, it's great if you like that, not necessarily going to help you prevent dementia. The learning, so ongoing learning, it can be formal things. I'm going to take a class, I'm going to do these formal things. It does not have to be formal education. You can learn to knit. You can learn to play a new instrument, take a class to decorate cakes. Any kind of learning, something new that you're learning is going to be helping. Social engagement, just visiting people, volunteering, staying in some way involved, book clubs, groups at church, all of those things are perfect, very helpful in prevention. This, I believe, is my last little slide here, but these are just some other potential topics that we could go a lot more into, depending on what you're interested in. Some of the actual kind of physical brain changes that happen, progression of dementia, comparison of some of the common types, common behaviors, some strategies for dealing with that. Ideas for activities. Sometimes when you're a caregiver, it's like, okay, we watch TV or we walk. You kind of run out of ideas sometimes, or on the spot, can't really think of anything to do, so, we can come up with some more ideas for more active things to do. We can go more in depth with some prevention tips. Information on the screenings themselves, approaching memory concerns, if there is someone that you're concerned about, there are better ways to approach it than others. You can have the same intent, and how you say it is going to make a big difference on how receptive someone is to getting that screening or to hearing you. Making communities and churches more dementia friendly. I have a separate presentation that I've done with a few churches specifically, like physical things you can do around, the church to make it more dementia friendly. Name tags, things like that, that you can do. Things in the community that you can do to make it kind of more inclusive. What we're trying to do with the dementia friendly communities are kind of help with that sense of isolation. There are places that we can go. Maybe I want to go to eat, but what if they have a behavior, what if they say something inappropriate, we don't know. If we can kind of get more and more places trained, the staff trained, and have designated okay, this restaurant would be kind of safe places, safe bets to go, because they would know how to handle this. We kind of want to get it as many places as possible so it's less isolating. And that's all I have. I went a little over my time, so if you have questions, I'm here.
Yeah, we will make this available to people, a PowerPoint presentation. Hopefully, Nicole, you'll send it to me, and then I can send it all out to you. So one question, and we're at our time, so go ahead, Jim.
That picture you showed up there of a brain, a healthy side and a dementia side, when that brain shrinks, what fills up the rest of the space in your head? Because when I shake my head, it gets rattled.
I'm trying to have not a sarcastic answer to that. It's just what's a lot of it is just kind of the air, the fluids that are the usual fluids. It just kind of hardens and shrinks in that same space, though.
So something else fills that void of the shrunken brain.
Yeah, not always. It's sometimes also these cells are still there. They're just also kind of shrunken and dead at that point.
Interesting question. I think kind of a medical direction for us, but all these other things with very comprehensive presentation. So we really thank you, Nicole. And just a reminder then that David Torres will be with us. I have the date wrong. It's May 18th. That's a Thursday. We do have plans to meet again in May on the 2nd and 4th Thursday. So we will continue that rhythm at least for a while until everybody says enough already. But we do have some possibilities emerging in the community that we're excited about, and next time we'll be able to fill you in a little bit more about what are the possibilities for us.
That last bullet's a good one.
A very, very good point about the last thing. We have had conversations in our task force about what it means to be a dementia-friendly church. And there's quite a bit of conversation going on right now about that. What does that mean? What does worship look like? What do the facilities look like? How can they be tuned in? How do ushers get training in this regard and other things like that? So very good point to talk about that. So.
If Nicole could give us more on that, that'd be great.
That's what I'm really hoping, that's what I'm excited for. I think that churches are a good place to start and be the leaders in the community.
All right, Bill's got one more, and then I need to, you can stay longer and talk to Nicole, but I need to dismiss the
I
group.
just thought it'd be useful if you could distribute that by email, that previous slide, you're next to the last slide.
I will send all of these out.
And this will be on YouTube as well, this whole video. Today's meeting.
And the whole video will be.
Yeah.
And then, how many of you have found our material on the website, by the way? You know, it is all on our church's website. All of the presentations that we have, which now are about 11 or 12 of them, are there. So we will make that available to you. So You want to
Making a note.
turn back to that one? Is that what you're doing?
No, so I was making a note to myself to send the email. I didn't know it was this late.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and feel free to take more of this young lady's time if you'd like.